Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself.
Yours truly, Brevin Thompson, is back to give you my review of The Matrix. The Matrix, the film that came out in 1999, was written and directed by the Wachowski, stars Keanu Reeves, Laurence Fishburne, Carrie-Anne Moss, Hugo Weaving, and Joe Pantoliano. When this film came out in the late 90s, people went nuts over it. It exploded in pop culture and affected a lot of people, mostly teenagers around that time. And I was only a year old when the film came out, so of course I didn't have a chance to see it. But but when I was a kid, when my dad first showed it to me when we watched it on DVD, I was like, this was unlike anything that I've ever seen before. And when it comes to The Matrix, it's definitely one of the best action films from the 90s, if not it was one of the best action films ever made. Not only because, you have all these action sequences, you have really good hand-to-hand combat sequences and some mind-blowing special effects, but also because it's a film that has deep philosophical meanings, and also the performances are spectacular, mostly because of Keanu Reeves, Laurence Fishburne, Carrie-Anne Moss, and Hugo Weaving. And I also like a bit of Joe Pantoliano in this film because, everybody gives a fantastic performance throughout the film, and I really love what the cast as well as the Wachowskis managed to accomplish with this film, because at the time they didn't even know how impactful this film would have been, because it was not only because it was going to be another big sci-fi action film, but also because of its philosophical meanings, and it tries to balance it out in a certain way. And I think that's, especially when you look at how it's written, you can tell that the Wachowskis took their time with this film. And I would say that The Matrix is without a doubt the Wachowskis' masterpiece. Now, before I go any farther into my review from The Matrix, I do have a collaborator joining me on this review, Ryan Cam. We'll be going over each of the Matrix films once a month, leading up to Matrix Resurrections in December, which I'm really looking forward to seeing, and I'm hoping that it doesn't disappoint at all and lives to the hype and expectations of the fans. But before I go any farther into my thoughts on The Matrix, now it's your turn, Ryan.
Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Kim. I want to thank Brevin for having me a part of this collaboration for The Matrix from 1999. I'm super grateful to be a part of it, and I'm looking forward to talking about this, because this is a movie that I've had an up and down relationship with. However, it's been up a lot lately, especially with the new Matrix trailer coming out. It's one of the more iconic movies of the 1990s. Until 2014, when John Wick came out, I think The Matrix was the movie that everybody associated Keanu Reeves with. It was either that or Point Break. The legendary filmmaker Billy Wilder had a famous quote about screenwriting, and I can't think of it exactly, but it goes something along the lines of, grab the audience by the throat and never let them go. And from the first scene of The Matrix, this movie grabs you by the throat and does not let you go. From the opening shot of Trinity facing off against the cops, you are immediately intrigued by what is happening. And from that opening scene, you are sent down a rabbit hole of kung fu meets philosophy. I've seen some people complain that Keanu Reeves is not a great actor and that he has one mode, and I can understand where they're coming from. However, in this movie, he actually gives a more nuanced performance than you might imagine. He gets into pretty good one-liners. He gets frustrated. There are even several scenes where he gets downright angry at the Smiths or Morpheus. It's an evolution from Thomas Anderson to Neo, and I think it's done fairly well. Parallel to that is the evolution of
Agent Smith,
played by Hugo Weaving. And again, it's fairly easy to kind of mock Hugo Weaving and say that he gives a very wooden performance. I can see where they're coming from too. However, if you see where Smith goes from the start of the movie to the ending, you actually see a lot more layers going on there as well. In the beginning, he just sees Neo as an insect, and he's like, oh, well, I'll just handle this, no problem. But as Neo gets more and more frustrating to deal with, even though he talks like this, like very, very monotone, because he's a computer, essentially, you notice him beginning to get more and more frustrating. And the best moment of Smith in the movie is the rant where he goes like how he hates humanity and wishes they would all die. It's good stuff. Then there's Morpheus, played by the great Laurence Fishburne. Fishburne has not really been in a bad thing in his entire career, in my opinion.
Carrie-Anne Moss as Trinity was also great.
There's really a nice balance between the philosophy side of things and the kung fu side of things. The philosophy side of things makes you think, but then the action kicks in and you're like, oh, that's cool too. This movie is the ultimate example of giving you a great adrenaline rush, but also leaving you with something to think about at the end. And I think that's my feelings on The Matrix right there. I think it's one of the better movies of the 90s. I have not seen the sequels, however, I will be watching it, one, because Matrix Resurrections is coming out, but also I'll be covering those with Brevin as well. So it's going to be interesting to watch those because I've never seen those. However, I can at least sit well knowing that the first Matrix is a work of art. But that is all from me, Brevin. Thank you so much for having me a part of this Matrix collab, and back to you.
So how the film opens with Trinity escaping from the cops as well as the agents is pretty mind-blowing, especially when you get that one shot of her about to kick that one cop. It's just like, the effects, I mean, I would say like a large majority of the effects still hold up after 20 plus years. And from there, I mean, it becomes like a mind-blowing action extravaganza, and that's the kind of film that I really love. After that, we are then introduced to Thomas Anderson, aka Neo, who's played by Keanu Reeves. He's a computer programmer as well as living a double life as a hacker, trying to track down Morpheus, who has some more information regarding about the Matrix. And when we get this one scene with Neo as well as Agent Smith, played masterfully by Hugo Weaving, I love how he tries to convince Neo to try to like get them to cooperate to help them find Morpheus. And I'm always like, how about I give you the finger and you give me my phone call? And from there, I mean, I don't think a lot of people really talk about how sometimes the film could be a little bit suspenseful and gives you a bit of, it has like a bit of tension throughout the film because you do care about these characters and you want them to survive. And there's like this one scene with getting on with that one scene with Neo and Agent Smith. It almost becomes a bit like a horror movie in a way because I mean you see like Neo's mouth like they use like the Matrix to like fuse his mouth shut. Is just like, that's just horrifying, especially how the effect looks. And of course they plant that bug inside him, and then when Neo goes to meet with Morpheus and the rest, they remove the tracker from him, and that's of course when we get to the famous red pill and blue pill scene. And I've always loved how Laurence Fishburne delivers that dialogue because I don't think anybody else can do an amazing job of playing Morpheus as well as Laurence Fishburne did, especially in this film. And how he delivers that dialogue, especially when he's given Neo the choice between the red pill and the blue pill, is one of my favorite scenes in the film. You take the blue pill, the story ends, you wake up in your bed and you believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. And when Neo takes the red pill, And that's when he's about to be unplugged from the Matrix. And I love the one effect when he touches the mirror and of it starting to like liquefy like around his arms, kind of like the T-1000 from Terminator 2. And there are kind of like some elements where I think the Wachowskis took a bit of inspiration from the first two Terminator films in particular for The Matrix. And especially when you, like, I remember like seeing that one scene as a kid. I was like, all of a sudden he's turning into the T-1000 from Terminator 2. That was like the little fanboy reaction that I got when I was 10 years old.
And the line that Morpheus says to Neo right before he's about to become unplugged from the Matrix, I've always loved. Have you ever had a dream, Neo, that you were so sure it was real? What if you were unable to wake from that dream? How will you know the difference between the dream world and the real world?
So after Neo is unplugged from the Matrix and he awakens in this liquid pod, and he sees like millions of other people who are like still plugged into that system. There are moments, like I said, where the Matrix almost in a way becomes a bit like a horror film, and at sometimes it's suspenseful and it has some tension fueled moments. And when it comes to that, when you see like, I mean, this horrifying imagery and seeing how the machines have full control over the earth and how they're using humans as a source of power, it's pretty horrifying, honestly.
So, as Morpheus explains to Neo, the Matrix is a computer-generated dream world built to keep the humans under control in order to change them basically into batteries, which is pretty terrifying, honestly.
And when we get to the scene where Morpheus explains the truth to Neo about the Matrix as well as what happened to the real world and how the machines have taken over the planet, and like I said, I love all the dialogue scenes given to Laurence Fishburne in this film because he delivers it like a pro. And when we get to the training scene with Neo and Morpheus, I've always loved it.
And the fight choreography is spectacular, and with added with the effects, because with those who are unplugged from the Matrix, they're able to bend or even break its physical rules, which gives them superpowers in a way, and it's pretty awesome.
And the score by Don Davis in this film, I've always loved it, and it fits perfectly well with what the film is trying to do, especially with, I mean, when you have all these action sequences. I mean, you have like different types of like martial arts scenes, as well as like people like doing like very long leaps and bounds and dodging bullets and everything. It's just like, it has everything that you would want in a film like this, and it is just mind-blowing. So when we get to the one scene with Neo and the Oracle, played pretty good by Gloria Foster, she tells Neo that he's not the one. Well, in fact, this is supposed to like help like motivate him in a way to lead to his ascension into becoming the one who is prophesized to free humans from the Matrix and end the war between mankind and the machines. And I really loved all the scenes with the Oracle in these films, even though Gloria Foster passed away between filming Reloaded and had to be replaced with Revolutions, which I'll get onto those pretty soon when me and Ryan talk about the sequels. When it comes to Cypher, played pretty good by Joe Pantoliano. He's a member of Morpheus's crew who regretted taking the red pill and wants a comfortable life in the Matrix because he believes that they are, in a way that they're fighting for a lost cause because of how the real world has turned out, and he believes that the Matrix can be more real than the actual how the real world has turned out in this film. So he betrays Morpheus and giving him to Agent Smith, and he ends up killing much of the crew, and it isn't until he's killed by Tank, and all that's left now of the crew is Tank, Neo, Morpheus, and Trinity. And I love how the third act turns out, and when Neo realizes what the Oracle was trying to tell him, beside like him not being the one, is that Morpheus believes that Neo is the one so blindly, is that he would sacrifice himself to save Neo. So he would have to make a choice to either save Morpheus. I mean, he would have Morpheus's life on one hand, and he would have his own on the other. So he goes back into the Matrix to save Morpheus, and Trinity comes along with him. And I love how the rest of it plays out. And I've always loved that one line that Neo gives: "I need guns, lots of guns." Which Keanu Reeves also said in John Wick Chapter 3. I remember seeing that in theaters back in 2019, John Wick 3. And when he said that line, nobody reacted to that. I'm like, that is an obvious nod to The Matrix. And I'm like, did anybody not remember that was from The Matrix? I'm just like, come on! Now, the scene in the lobby with Neo and Trinity just kicking ass left and right, most of the stunt work and the effects, they look incredible. I mean, you see Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss just kicking ass left and right. It's just like, it is just mind-blowing. And I'm just really surprised at how a large chunk of the action still holds up after all of these years. And of course, when they're on the rooftop against an agent, well, of course we get the famous bullet time effect moment when Neo is like bending backwards and dodging the bullets, and it's just, like I said, 20 plus years have passed, and a large chunk of the effects still hold up, and I'm just like, it is still beautiful. Even on 4K, it looks beautiful. So after Neo and Trinity rescue Morpheus, and Morpheus and Trinity leave the Matrix safely, that we then get to the last sequence of the movie with Neo battling Agent Smith, and we get another bullet time effect when they're jumping in midair, trying to shoot each other, and they're ended up like dodging bullets, and then they're like turning around in midair. And a large the effects are still beautiful. I'm sorry I had to keep getting back onto this subject, but it is true. It is beautiful. Beautiful enough to win an Oscar back then, and that Oscar was well deserved. And I love a large chunk of the fight, of this fight scene between Neo and Agent Smith. It's pretty badass. So after that one pretty awesome fight between Neo and Agent Smith, the rest is just filled with so much tension, with Neo trying to escape from the Matrix, trying to run away from the agents, and in the real world, Morpheus, Trinity, and Tank are about to be killed by the Sentinels, machines in the real world who are designed to kill humans outside of the Matrix. And they had to activate the EMP because right now that's the only weapon that they have against the machines. And when Agent Smith corners Neo and kills him, you're like, I don't believe it. The main character of the film is dead. And when Trinity whispers to Neo, professing her love to him and kissing him, and in a way giving him the kiss of life, and when he is resurrected in a way, the agents try to kill him, shooting him, and he just raises his hand and stops the bullets in midair. I was just like, that is just like, wow, it's just like, it is incredible. And Neo, in a way, destroys Agent Smith, and he gets out in time just right at the moment when Morpheus activates the EMP, and that the last shot of the film with Neo flying off, a perfect way to finish the film. The Matrix is without a doubt a masterpiece. It's one of the few important films from the 90s. It's a film that anybody can watch and still be blown away by its effects. And not only because of its effects, but also because of its performances, the direction, its writing, the action sequences, the effects. I mean, I already mentioned the effects. And its philosophical messages. And it's just like everything that you would want for a 90s action film. And when it comes to Keanu Reeves' filmography, I mean, this is definitely one of his best films, because back then he was mostly known for like Bill and Ted, Speed, as well as Point Break. And from then on, since The Matrix, he's become a bit of an action star, especially with the John Wick films. And I honestly hope that Resurrections will be great, but the sequels after The Matrix didn't really have like the same level of awesomeness as the first film did, because the first one was like lightning in a bottle, and lightning does not strike twice when it comes to The Matrix. The Matrix is a perfect film, and it without a doubt deserves an A+. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching, and thank you again, Ryan, for joining me for my review for The Matrix. And I'm really excited to talk about The Matrix Reloaded next month. Yeah, can't wait to do that. So guys, thank you so much as always for watching. Looking forward to doing more videos really soon. And if you want my thoughts on old or new movies, of course, you know where to find me.